I'm going to really do a quick presentation to get us started because the really important part is for Eileen to present. This session is called, what is it called in the program? Learner-Driven Language Learning Method. And Jean mentioned how she's been able to use it, and I know that several other people have been introduced and are trying it out, including the Santa Fe Indian School. But today I wanted to hear directly from the this young lady who's using it with her learner. So just a brief background, and this hopefully will go very quickly. It's called How Do I Say? And it was based on the most natural way in which people who are interested, motivated, driven, or have to learn languages, it's based on how they do it, which is desire, the necessity, it's relevant to their life. The speakers of the language are their main resource, not a university or a language class or a language teacher necessarily. And there's something methodical and very persistent about the method. And these were the people involved. The funding came from ANA to develop a prototype. Anonymous donor for over a 2-year period allowed us to develop it fully and to test it out further. And we had a project advisory team with Gerald Hill, Joshua Hinson, Laura Jagels, Ophelia Zepeda. These were I'm not going to go through every single detail, but partners involved in the prototype testing. It was 5 high school students and their mentor, Laura Jagels. And basically, who can use this method? It could be schools, and we were actually first inspired to come up with this because tribal colleges who had many, many tribal languages in their student body, and Santa Fe Indian School, they had said, you know, we're trying to figure this out. So we thought, well, what is that going to look like? How can it serve a school that has to teach many languages but has limited resources? And all the other people, individuals, entities that are listed here can take advantage of this because, as we will demonstrate, it's not that difficult. Jean said, it is simple. If you know it, use it. If you know it, share it. If you want to learn, ask for it. Anyway, so basically, it's giving the driver the key, driver learner student the key so they can learn to drive by driving. You don't wait till you understand the theory and all of that and then get in the car. You actually learn while you drive. So the key's in the learner's hands. Mentor is there to give the language, to give you the right pronunciation, all the cultural protocol things that you will need to know in order to become a speaker in your community. It's not just about language. It's about all the other things. So that kind of taking the teacher mentality out of the picture, but really being there as a most important resource in the learning process is the mentality. So this is what the book looks like, and you've seen it, I think, but and it doesn't have any lessons in it. It just has topics that were what we observed and collected data as topics of interest to people who are learning, especially Indigenous languages. And it offers ideas to really explore it. It doesn't say, this isn't about translating English into your language. So when you ask the question, how do I greet people? You'll usually end up with a 2-week lecture on the different ways you greet people. It's not hello, right? So it offers ideas of some of the questions you might ask, but also gives the mentor some guidelines. Why did we call it How Do I Say? Typically we say, how do you say? we find somebody who speaks Mohawk and they go, "Oh, Dorothy, how do you say?" But we wanted to emphasize the I. How do I say? So that you start using it, that I start using and speaking it. So there was a lot of intention in many of the things that went into this workbook, and really a lot of it from the ideas that people shared with us. So, table of contents. Typically, table of contents is, in a linear format listing. Our advisory team said, that's not how language is learned, really. There's no one thing more important than the other. So we came up with a more of a circular design. Main topics in a circular design, and they all branch off into details of how each topic, some of the suggested subtopics, can be used as a guideline to your conversation sessions with your mentor. And part of our intent is that we want to shift the mentality. Language learning and teaching doesn't belong only in the classroom. So when we talk about, words like curriculum, lesson plans, many of our speakers are going, what on earth is that? I used to say, oh, what really is a curriculum? I mean, I knew what it is, but I didn't really know how to explain it. So we're trying to we're trying to help people shift from being more comfortable with terms like teacher. Consider yourself a mentor. A student, which is usually in the Western or current school system, is a very passive recipient of information. You want it to be interactive, participatory. So they're learners. It's learner-centered, shifting from teacher-centered. And instead of prescribed lessons, it is topics that you can discuss in the language, hopefully. And lesson plan becomes more learner-driven discussions or activities. We saw such lovely examples of what you do in life, but do it in the language. And the larger overarching goal are these: to enable the teachers to focus on student learning so that they don't have to always be the one preparing lessons and feeding the information, but making sure that your focus is on, are you learning? What can I do better to make you learn? Advancing opportunities for language learning for everyone. So if you're not enrolled in a language class, don't feel left out. This is something you can do on your own. Increase community participation. So, I may choose not to go to class, but I may choose to select somebody in the community to say, hey, can you help me with the language that I want to learn? How do I say this? Do you have time? Can we do tea together, dinner together? And you'll be amazed how many people say yes. And these are speakers who are not really involved in language work, but we're hoping that could increase through this method. And then in the school system, attendance, in the community language programs, increase the attendance. We have heard many, many situations where this amazing, dedicated teacher has a evening class in her home or in the community center, but after a while, nobody really shows up, or 2 or 3 just trickle in. And by him or her not having to worry too much about, this is what I'm going to teach today, but let them come and say, hey, I want to learn about this. Can we talk about this? Letting maybe that kind of involvement happen more. And ultimately, of course, to produce speakers. So, today we're going to hear from Eileen Lente-Kasero. Eileen, her bio is in your program, but I'm going to ask her to introduce herself and give us information of how she is using this method with her mentor or mentors, or learner or learners.
Okay, say ho baton straight Josh kwahinam amaiche kwahanusta kwishi mesta ek awake mesta. I just greeted you and asked how everybody was this morning. Gave you my clan is Bear Clan, and my name is Amaitie, and it comes from a song. And I told you what village I'm from and that I'm Laguna Pueblo. So let me start. The person that I'm mentor to is Marla Allison. She's Laguna, half Laguna. Her father's Anglo. And Marla is the wife of our staff officer in our village. But Marla, after attending some of our sessions at Laguna, came to me and wanted to know if there was any way we might do it individually, so that she had to pick it up because she was a wife of a staff officer. And of course, the staff officers are the ones in charge of our villages. We have 6 villages in Laguna, and it was necessary for her to understand and try to speak. So I told her about this book, and in fact, we went through it, and she said it was doable. So I asked her, well, why don't you read the book, and then you tell me what you want to do. So we went from there, and the book itself is very simple, as Inée said. It's about, the first section is about me. So because it was Marla who was learning, she gave me her Indian name. She started to say her Indian name, what clan she was, the village she was at. And then we went on to explain, or I guess go with the book. And I told Marla, I said, okay, I said, this book, it has to be your book because you're the one that wants to learn the language. So pretty much we started from there. Okay, and the main focus of the book is that the learner has to have that desire. I mean, it doesn't matter how much you try to teach someone. If they don't have the desire and the passion to learn it, they're not going to learn it. And that's probably where Marla was at, because she was very, very determined. And some of the survival phrases, I guess, that I wanted her to learn was, if she didn't understand something, she had to tell me, because I have no way of knowing if she's understand it. And then to repeat something over and over. If she wanted me to speak lower, slower, then I would do it. And then the enunciation. The enunciation is very specific in our language. You have to say the word distinctly so that you can make all the little sounds, you know. Glottal sounds, I guess, probably were hardest. And then if she wasn't sure, then I would repeat it again. And I let Marla go ahead and record it because we saw each other probably twice a week. And she started to learn the greetings, how to greet someone in the morning, in the afternoon. And the noontime, I guess, was the hardest because I think I teach in the community of Hawaii, and some of the folks there said, I'm not going to ever say anything to anybody at noontime because that's the hardest sentence to say. So I don't know if they're using it. Okay, so that was Marla about me. And then relationships, we started to learn. The father, mother, brother, sister, and then how to greet them, you know. We started to learn the greetings, and now when she sees me, you know, she always asks me, "Kay tawag or kay tawag you from?" asking me how I am in the morning or in the afternoon, depending on when we see each other. And she calls me Amaitie all the time. So, which is good because that's my name, you know, and it's refreshing for somebody. I guess my mom was the only one that used to call me that all the time, and nobody, I think, like everybody says, you know, a lot of people don't speak anymore. In my family, we're still very fluent with each other because my brothers and sisters are all older than I am, and our parents and my grandparents are all fluent. That's all we spoke when we were growing up, and my grandmother always emphasized that that was our language, that was our way of communicating. She said, when you go to the white man's school, you're going to learn English anyway, so it's important you talk the language. So I spoke the language from, I guess, whenever I started speaking. Okay, and then the next section was foods. You know, the things we eat all the time, the things we have in our home, those are the things that we concentrated on. You know, and how to greet somebody when they come in, or greet them and ask them to sit down to the table to eat. You know, chupe, draw up, you know, iani chayawa, or whatever, that's to greet them to eat, you know, sit down and eat with you. The foods, I think, took us probably the longest because we're always feasting, you know, Pueblos eat for every occasion. So, and then after the foods, we also, during the course, I guess, of the community classes, we had cooking classes. And Miss Vicky back there provided us with a lot of our ingredients. Thank you, Vicky, because we were able to teach the traditional foods, you know, that we eat. We made tamales, we made mama dals, and we made something called shtamari, that's the blue corn tortillas. And that's a lot of work. That's a process that you have to start in the morning, and because you have to actually boil the corn to make like pasoli. I mean, it comes out like that, the blue corn, and then you have to grind it, and that's a lot of work. But we learned to, I mean, I taught the group how to make that. So we explored the foods, and then the things we do, just everyday things that we do, dressing, taking a shower, combing your hair, you know, and our language is very specific. Like you don't just say, get dressed, you know, like in English you say get dressed, that means everything. You say chuwak, wakani, or chuish, put on your pants, chutui, put on your sock, chushui. So you have to, everything is named in the language. So that, you know, we had a fun time with that because sometimes people can't say the words, you know, so we have to repeat over and over. Okay, so those are the things that, you know, what you wear, your jacket, shirts, sweater, all those things she had to learn. And then we also learned the traditional clothing, the manta jutsis, you know, back apron, the belt, the beads, the earrings, the shoes, the moccasins, you know. So she was able to do that. Very slow at that, but, you know, I know that she's trying. And then we went to the weather, and the weather itself is just enormous. When you're a speaker, you don't think about that because you just say it. But I learned that, you know, in snow in the language is hawe, just the word for snow. But when you're going to say, is it snowing, it's different. The word completely changes, chawet tata. You know, you're asking somebody, is it snowing? Chawet tata. Or if you're telling somebody it is snowing, you say, kawet tata. So all three words are different. But we had a time with that. And as well for like thunder, rain, lightning, hail, dust storm, blizzard, all those elements that happen with weather. We covered those. And then she wanted to learn how the words change, in that, like I said, about snow. And I said, well, Marley, you know what? I said, I think the language was around long time before I was born, so don't even ask me that because I didn't make up the language. I said, and I thought that was so funny because, you, when you're a speaker, you don't think about it. You're just talking it. So we had fun with that. Okay, and then the book comes with time. She showed you that little picture about the circular. The time was another thing, because we've got names for the days of the week. We've got the names for the months of the year. And the months of the year in our language is associated with planting seasons, like right in April. In April, we call it Bashchatshe Tawach. And Bashchatshe, the word itself means that the ground is still real hard. It hasn't been moistened or it hasn't been irrigated, so it's not moist. And she wanted an explanation for that. And I said, I don't know. I said, I just know that it's associated with growing crop. I said, Bashchatshe refers to the condition of the ground. And then May is Shavutshe Tawach. Shavutshe means that it's been either irrigated, it's been moistened, and it's, like the ground is ready to be planted. So it's not really, a name of like April. What does April mean in our language? It's just a month, but. And then June is associated with the Saint Santiago. That's when some of the people that are named Santiago throw, it's like a feast day for them. Santiago Tawach. And then August, same way. Rudens is Lawrence. Those people have a feast day, so some of the months are named that. And then September, August is Rudens. September is Kinatata. Kinatata in our language is that the crop is growing, like it's ready to be picked. And as well for October, Kinatata, that's when it's ready to be picked. November is Shumutawach, that's the month of the dead because we celebrate the All Souls and All Saints Day. And then December is Nuchuena. Nuchuena is Christmas in our, language. So we had a lot of fun with the months because she wanted an explanation for a lot of them, but I just know that they're associated with different things in the course of the year. Seasons, we pretty much had that. Didn't have no problem with the seasons. We did have a problem with the solstice because, to me, the summer and winter solstice are automatic because my family, celebrate those events. So I had a hard time explaining that, but, I think she got it, I hope. And then we learned the terms for today, yesterday, day before yesterday, last night, night before last, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, next day, early, already, recent, immediate, And those are some of the words that I guess we take it for granted because when you tell your child, you know, to do something, and you want it done right now, it's sherru. Sherru, it means to do it, to do something immediate. But we had a lot of fun with these because yesterday it's just suwa, but and then day after tomorrow it's nahaya, nahayash. So people think it's like a week away, nahayash, you know, but it's like day after tomorrow. Same way with day before yesterday, nahaya. Nahaya is like day before yesterday. So we had a problem with that because she couldn't distinguish, like to her it was like a week before, but it's just the day before. Day before. Okay, already. Mishu? Mishu? Like, Mishu, did you already do something? So those are the words that she kind of got stuck in. And then we went with the hours, and in time, clock time. Our clock we call Dawat because it's just the cycle of the moon, you know. Dawat is also clock. So before, you know, if the hour is before, get into the hour. We say before. If it's past the hour, it's after the hour. Yet it's past. So we did that. We did numbers from 1 to 1,000,000. And I told her, I said, I don't really want to go with the numbers. And she said, well, I think it's important because we always talk numbers. So I said, okay. I said, we'll do it. So we started to do numbers, and it's a simple pattern, you know, because from 1 to 100 is a very simple pattern. But then after you get to 100, then you have to say the, you know, katsiwa kats, and then the 1 or 2 or 3. And the wording is longer than the number, believe me. And midi is 1,000, and million is 1,000,000. So she had fun with that. And I think that with the fun we had, it was easier for her to learn because, you know, some of the words are hard to say, and we don't always use numbers, you know, that high. So this is the book that she's describing, and we have it here. The topics, you know, are her choice, and I would say that probably today Marla understands more Laguna. She tells me that when the officers are speaking or the war chiefs are speaking at the different villages when we have events, that she's able to understand what they're saying. And if somebody can understand what another is saying, I think that they've got the word in their head, you know. It's just to speak it. And like Ms. Cantana said, you know, when somebody talks to me in Laguna, I speak to them all the time in the language. And I think that if your heart is in the right place, you're going to learn it. I'll tell you a story. I have a son, my youngest son, was very interested in participating and going into the kiva. And my husband is one of those real traditional type of person. And he said, okay, he said, I'm not going to let you, he told him. And I could see that look in my son's face, like he got hurt and angry. And he said, this is the conditions you will participate. If you understand and speak Laguna, he said, so you better start today because that's the only way I'm going to permit you to go into the kiva. So my son didn't say anything. He got up from the table and went to his room. And later on, I asked him if he was all right. And he said, yeah, I'm all right, he said. But I have this recorder, Mom, he said. Can you record for me this? So we started every week, we would record a sentence. And it took us about probably a year and a half. And then one day he said to me in our language, Naya, he said, I'm going to talk to my father. And I was just like taken aback because he says, Hina, that's okay. When you tell him something, he'll say, Hina. And that's about the Ortawaye, thank you. He never said anything in sentences. So I was just shocked that he even could say that. So I said, Hina, Pimina, okay, talk to him. So he was talking to his dad, and he said, he said, he said, I guess I'm able to understand now, so I'm ready to go in. And, I knew that he was sincere, but when you're the mother to your children, you never really understand, or you hope, but you don't really understand if they really mean it, or if they're just saying the words that you want to hear. But when I heard him pray, oh gosh, he named stuff that I would not know because, we don't have that. I pray, but I pray for everybody. I pray for good weather. Today I prayed to Mother Wisdom before I came down, because Mother Wisdom is the person that enlightens you or gives you the words to say. And but I was so amazed that he could actually speak. So I think that, I've made a speaker out of him, and Marla is doing a very good job at trying to learn the language. So I think that this book, because she's the one that's asking, how do you say this? How do I tell somebody this? Or how am I going to ask for this? Then she's able to do it because it's her words, not mine. So this book is easy to follow, and as Inée said, she's the driver in this method. So I don't have any problem teaching anybody. Karis, right now, this school year, I'm working with the Santa Fe Indian School high school kids. I'm teaching there 3 days a week. And then I work in the community with Vicky's wellness program. I teach in 2 of the villages, Masita and Pawadi Village. And the folks there, the folks in Pawadi are probably my loyal students because they come every week. And even on holidays, sometimes they want to be having class. So they're pretty loyal and they're learning. I think they're just afraid because we've always been told, oh, you're not saying it right, or people laugh at you, and that's the thing I guess I keep telling them. Don't even pay attention when somebody tells you you don't say it right. Ask them, just put it back on them. Well, tell me how to say it. Because that's the only way you're going to learn the right way, if somebody corrects you, but not to criticize. So this book is a very good book, so it's not hard to understand, and I think that the folks that do use it, they're amazed at how quickly they can pick it up. So I guess I'll be able to answer any questions later.
Thank you. Thank you, Eileen. So you can't go off stage yet. I had asked Marla Allison to also join in this conversation, but she couldn't come. So I talked to her on the telephone. And so I'm paraphrasing. I tried to write down everything word by word, but I'm paraphrasing some of her input. And with her permission, I'm sharing this with you and the group. So I asked her what was helpful about this learner-driven, how do I say, method, and working with your mentor, Eileen. So Marla's response was, before I knew about this approach, it didn't dawn on me that as a learner, it allowed me to question myself how I learn best. So I was able to think, how would I learn this well? And she was able to design that approach using this method, but and she says, the method was a way that I can understand my own learning style. It helped me realize that we don't have to rely solely on how the teacher teaches. It was a major wake-up call, and her explanation of that was, now I feel very comfortable just asking the questions. And so I asked her, what is a typical language session like? She's nervous now. We agree on a topic, like today, let's do weather type of thing, and Eileen goes over the meaning of the words, uses them in context and in sentences. So it's no longer wordless, but it really goes into how it's used. She pronounces and repeats several times. She is a good enunciator, so that is really helpful. I'm sharing this because this is all very important for all of you and us who are teaching. Don't mumble, don't be shy. You really have to enunciate. And I've seen her in action, and she's like in your face. And good expressions too. And here's more of Marla. I record all of this on a recorder, especially the repeated pronunciations of words and expressions. Outside of class, I would listen, I put on my earplugs, listen to the recording over and over while working on my art or in my spare time. This is what it requires for the learner. They have to do their homework, right? So my next question, are you making progress in your conversation skills? Yes, I think so. Eileen, she says, Eileen is a really good teacher because she has so many years of experience. She is thoughtful in making sure that her students know how to use the language. I really appreciate Eileen going over the range of ways to express in the language. For example, she goes over how to say something when talking to one-on-one, or when I need to talk to two people, or to a group of people. She teaches the different ways that a male and female would say something. Eileen knows the language very well. She grew up in Keres, and she learned from the elders who used it every day, all their lives. Her explanation of whys and hows of the language is also clear and useful. It helps me learn about our culture even more. I learned from her proper Keres, and I said, what do you mean? What I mean by that is that it's not English translated into Keres. Where's the Kleenex? Because she's going to need this one. Eileen is patient, and she's very, very, very kind in the way she teaches. She can handle all types of personalities. I get impatient with my students, my colleagues, but she's so patient, I have to be patient. That's what she said. There are about 6 to 8 students in your class, and they meet at the community center in our village in Laguna, Pueblo.
Thank you.